Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be talking to you guys about how to aim for and how to get an 8 or a 9 in GCSEs and how I did it. So when I did my GCSEs, the levels were A star, A, B, C, and they weren't 9 to 1, but I did get all A stars and A's, which are the same as getting 8 and 9s. And that now we're edging towards the end of January, which means you only have Feb, March, April and May pretty much, so 4 months left till the GCSE and A-level exams begin. So here are my top 9 tips for how you can get an 8 or a 9 in your GCSEs. So firstly, start revising now, and start revising the things that you don't know now. There's no point of going over things that you already know. If you haven't already started, then start now. It's not too late. There's no better time than now. The reason that I'm giving that as tip number 1 is because without studying and without going over your information and your content, there is no way you can possibly even pass, let alone get an 8 or a 9. Secondly, start to use exam papers ASAP, so as soon as possible. As soon as you go over and you revise certain topics, then go and look at the corresponding exam questions for them. The sooner you can start looking at exam questions and actually practicing what style of writing and the style of answer that you need to give, the better it is for you in terms of being able to achieve those high grades. Really make sure that you become best friends with the mark scheme. The mark scheme is basically the answers. The mark scheme is telling you what keywords they want in the answer. There's no point of writing 5 or 6 lines of piece of information when really all you've been asked to do is to give one reason for something or one assumption for something. So really make sure that you start using mark schemes, you start using exam papers as soon as possible. Don't wait till April or Easter to start doing exam questions, because the more time you spend on it, the better. You also want to stagger your learning to make sure that you don't just do all the past papers in one go. I made sure that I did past papers like in February, and then I did them again in like March or April, just to kind of give me time to forget them and then learn them again. Otherwise, doing them all in one go means that you're not giving yourself that time to build a memory and really understand and like learn that information. The next tip that I cannot recommend enough is actually using a revision timetable, and I made myself a timetable and I made sure to stick to that timetable for at least the last couple of months, and to really be strict with your time and to audit your time. I made sure that I got rid of anything that I was doing that wasn't revision. So if I was reading like fiction books that had nothing to do with English, I'd get rid of it. Phone, minimizing time spent on my phone, minimizing socializing, just really making the most of every second you have is what I did. And to be able to do that, having a timetable is a really good idea. So what I did was I had a massive timetable, and I'm going to go through a good revision timetable in another video, but having a massive timetable from Monday to Sunday, and then really like blocking out school hours and then having the after school hours, and really dedicating certain subjects and certain modules to those hours, and then obviously on the weekend making sure that you kind of spend some time relaxing but also some time studying as well. The next thing that I did that really helped me get those top grades is revising with friends, or even teaching other people. One of the best ways of memorizing and retaining information is by making sure that you are able to regurgitate that information and making sure that you are able to recall that information. And one of the best ways of doing this is by teaching someone else, and by doing that, not only are you helping yourself, but you're also helping a friend. Not someone that you can just go to the library and just have a chat for 2-3 hours, but someone that you know is dedicated like you and really wants to get on with it. Go somewhere, you can go to a cafe or somewhere, not too quiet, because obviously you need to speak, but teach them something and let them teach you something. And what you find is I really remembered a lot more when I taught someone something. So I remember things that I taught someone even now, so many years from then. I remember it, but just because I actually had to say it out loud. There's so much information that we learn that we never actually have to say from our mouths. We just remember it in our heads and then write it down using our hands. So really being able to say what it is that you've just learned and tell a story, it helps to kind of solidify that information in your mind. Next thing that I did, which again was such a lifesaver, is to revise for my mocks as if they were the real thing. So a lot of you probably had mocks before Christmas, and you probably have another one coming up sometime soon, maybe Feb, maybe March. Revise for them as if it was the actual exam. And if you have that mentality, what it means is that you are almost ready for the actual exam and you can see what parts are missing. And I think the problem is when you take mocks as a mock, then you don't take it as seriously, and the grade that you get from the mocks is not necessarily reflective of what you could get. So if you were to get a 6 in the mocks, but you didn't revise as hard as you could have, then it doesn't necessarily say you'd get a 6, and it makes you feel like that's all you can get, and it does demotivate you a little bit. Whereas if you revise super hard, as if it was the actual exam and you were to get an 8, then it just gives you that motivation that, you know what, I can do it. And you know, it is something that is within my reach in the real thing. And the other thing that it does is it really helps you find and pinpoint information that you genuinely don't know. So if you revise for everything, just like the final exam, and then at the end of it you get your feedback and the teacher says to you, this is the topic that you really struggled with, at least then it shows actually that is something that you did struggle with, and you can go and learn it for the actual exam, as opposed to not really revising and then you've got all these topics that you don't necessarily know, well actually, had I revised would it been okay, or do I genuinely not know it? So if you have mocks in a month's time, I would say put your head down and act like that was your actual GCSEs. And trust me, that was one of the best things that I did to be able to show myself what my weaknesses are, and like a bit like a trial run before the real thing. You also want to find out what revision style suits you. There's no one shoe fits all. If your friend revises by going to the library and sitting down for 5-6 hours and does really well, that's fine, that works for them. But you might revise for an hour, and that works for you. Some people like flashcards and that works for them. Others like to actually just walk around with a book in their hand and that works for them. You have to identify what your revision style is, and if you're trying to find that out in April, that's a little bit too late to be able to iterate that process and then work out which style is best for you. So try your best to start revising now in order to figure out what style works for you. I figured out that the way that I work best is sort of long periods of time. So sitting down, phone away, no laptop, no computer, just revising from a book and then just doing the questions and like kind of going back and forth, and that worked for me. Some people prefer visual learning, so just reading notes, and then then they're good. They can apply that information really easily. I know this is probably gonna be quite hard, but take all the opportunities that you can. In the next couple of weeks / months, there'll be so many opportunities that your teachers throw at you. Come to this intervention, this after school club. There might be sessions on the weekend where you can get extra help as well. Take every opportunity and listen to what the teachers say. They didn't write the paper obviously, so they don't know what's gonna actually come up, but they've done years and years and years of this. They've been through this. They've seen hundreds of students go through this process. Imagine, they've seen hundreds every single year take the exam and then come out the other side, and the feedback and what happens, and they read the reports from the examiners, and they have meetings every single week to discuss what topics they think is going to come up. And they're not just speaking to speak, they are actually telling you information that is really valuable. And listen to them. Write things down. When they tell you to write things down, write it down. They're not just saying it to you for the sake of saying it to you, they actually know what they're talking about. And I think that was something that I definitely knew. That was something that I definitely learned through the last couple of years, like year 10, year 11. I started to listen to them a bit more in terms of the exam technique and exam feedback that they'd give, especially subjects like English, maths and science, where it's not necessarily about the information you write, it's not necessarily about what you know, but it's more about what you've written down, how you've written it down, the structure of your arguments and things like that. So you may know Macbeth really well, but if you haven't answered it using, you know, your point, evidence, explanation, and then your link, you don't get the same marks. And it's really important that you're able to listen to the teacher and just take some notes and just take what they're saying as valuable. Also, make sure that you're attending as many lessons as possible. I'm pretty sure that I had 100% attendance. Yeah, I think I probably only missed Eid day, if that. So the more you're actually in the classroom, the better it is. Again, just because the teachers are going to give you so much valuable information during those last few weeks, that even if you missed every single lesson before, there's still so much opportunity for you to do well in those last few weeks, just by listening to what they're saying really and applying that to your exam, especially those feedback lessons. I remember when we used to have feedback lessons after an exam, they'd go through all the things that people did wrong, and by listening to that you are able to pick up the parts of the exam that people usually make mistakes on, and by remembering that and not doing that in the next exam, it really helps, and I found that really useful as well. Lastly, try to revise smart over revising for long durations. So again, I would say that I used to revise for really long durations of time, and that worked for me, but I know for sure that I could have done so much better, because I got mostly 8's, mostly A's, and I had a few A stars. I could have done so much better if I just spent a bit more time working a bit more efficiently, and as opposed to just sitting there and feeling like I'm studying because I'm sitting on the desk for like 5-6 hours. Going to exam papers as soon as possible, focusing on bits of information that you don't know, and just looking at mark schemes and really using them as your kind of your guide for everything. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. I hope that you were able to take away a few tips for what I did when I was at school and how I got all A/A stars or 8's and 9's for you guys that are doing your exams now. Let me know if you have any other tips for those that might have done their exams recently, and let me know what tips you are going to try to apply for the next couple of weeks, or the next month or so before your mocks begin, your PPEs begin. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.